5 stars come and 5 stars go. It's been a good news, bad news past 24 hours for Michigan football. We're going to get into the commitment of Savion Hiter, but the potential loss of Andrew Babalola for the 2025 season right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. We are back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Lowell, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of you for making us your first listen. Thank you to all of our everydayers out there. We do appreciate it. We're going to start off by talking about Savion Hiter and his commitment today in segment 1. Segment 2, we're going to get into Andrew Babalola and the potentially devastating news there. Before we cross into just kind of what it means, I think that there's some interesting stuff with Sherrone Moore that I kind of want to get into. But let's start off with Savion Hiter. Huge win. Let's start with Tony Alford, man. He might have been a Buckeye once it all was said and done. If Tony Alford had stayed at Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's gotten some of those really good guys. Some of the guys that are actually, you're seeing him being compared to Travion Henderson, J.K. Dobbins, those types. Michigan hasn't really had. This is the funny thing. For all of the running success, you think Mike Hart, you think Blake Corum, you think, Hassan Haskins. 2 of the 3 I just mentioned are 3 stars. Right? Like, they've had some 5 stars. Donovan Edwards had his moments where he looked like the 5-star. He was a 5-star by one recruiting service. Obviously, Derek Green didn't work out. Ty Isaac didn't really either. But otherwise, like, they haven't exactly had a bevy of 5 stars at the running back position come in and come through, which is kind of weird considering Michigan showcases running backs in ways that most other programs don't. Like, a lot of other ones are more complimentary, whereas Michigan, like, that's kind of what the identity is, the offensive line and the running back. So to finally get that number 1 guy in a class is massive. Absolutely massive for Tony Alford, Sherrone Moore. And like, hey, it's hilarious to think that there were people on the message boards for a little while that were like complaining about Tony Alford when, pretty decent class last year, right? Like, they love Jasper Parker. Donovan Johnson pre-injury was looking like he was going to be a 5-star, and unfortunately he's injured again. And he ended up being a 3-star once all is said and done. But you see the recruiting prowess actually happening, and as Coach McCann, his agent, Savion Hiter's agent, said, relationships. It's all about relationships, and Michigan absolutely has done that with Savion. So that is huge in and of itself, but it's crazy. When you look at, like, there's not like really like one comp. Andrew Ivins at 24/7 Sports says Amarian Hampton. A lot of different guys at On3 have different opinions. You see different names come across, right? Whether it's the 2 I just mentioned, I've seen Travion Henderson and J.K. Dobbins mentioned. I've seen Saquon Barkley. I've seen LaDainian Tomlinson. It's kind of across the gamut. So it's basically pick whoever your favorite running back is, and that maybe is what Savion Hiter is going to be. But here's the thing. It's also a massive win because it's the number 1 player on the board for a second straight year. It's a guy that every single school in the country would have taken. Maybe didn't have offers from every single school, but there's not one school in the country that looked at Savion Hiter and said, yeah, we'll pass. We like what we got. Same thing with Bryce Underwood last year. There's not a school in the entirety of college football that wouldn't take him and feature him. And I think with what you're looking at here, you're looking at what Michigan's building. And it's interesting. I think back to going from 2020 and 2021. And I know that one of them, I think, I can't remember which one. I think was it Trevor Keegan was a 2019 guy, I think. But Zach Zinter was a 2020. I might have had that backward. I'm just trying to remember correctly. But those were the 2 stalwarts on the offensive line. right? Like you had a little bit of revolving doors at some of the other positions, transfers a plenty at center. But like the tackle spots, like there wasn't like obvious tackles, right? You had Ryan Hayes in 2021. And then you kind of moved through a bunch of different guys at left and right tackle, different guys at center, but you had the two stalwarts in the interior that made that line go. You had the running back, Blake Corum. And you had the quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. You see, it might not be the exact same timing blueprint type of thing, but you're seeing kind of a similar blueprint playing out right now, right? Even though, like, we're going to talk about Babalola here in segment 2, you got Andrew Babalola and Ty Haywood and Avery Gash. We'll throw Caden Strayhorn in there too. But like you're building an offensive line there. You had the quarterback in Bryce Underwood. Now you've got Savion Hiter. So what we're looking at here, it might not be, senior Blake Corum, seniors offensive line, and junior quarterback. But, well, when you're looking at junior quarterback, actually, you're going to be looking at junior offensive line, sophomore running back, and that might be good enough to get you where you want to go. Similar blueprint. And then you add in some of the talent that they are bringing in at wide receiver. Yeah, no Calvin Russell, but like Travis Johnson, Zion Robinson, very good players. I think you can look at them and say, yeah, those are guys that could play anywhere in the country. Might not have the same offer sheets as Bryce or Savion, but like those are guys that could play anywhere in the country. Those are guys that could absolutely be high flying on top of Andrew Marsh, who's here now, or Jamar Browder. You can see everything starting to click offensively. Amarian Hampton was another name that, and Andrew Ivins from 24/7 Sports had Amarian Hampton as the Savion Hiter comp. I think we know that Chip Lindsey can use Amarian Hampton because he had 1,500 yards for 2 straight seasons in a Chip Lindsey offense. So it's all kind of coming together, but you can't just downplay it and just in terms of that. But like the talent now on offense is it's becoming incredible. And I know there's going to be certain people out there that are going to be like, but Isaiah, it's a long ways to signing day. Yeah, it is. I listen, it's been trending this way the whole time. Yeah, Tennessee got involved, but it's been trending this way the whole time. If you really want to have some fun, do some quick Twitter searches and see. Even last week, what Ohio State fans were saying, like, well, when the hammer drops, you're not going to get anyone. Mass exodus. He's not going to these people who are cheating. For all the people that require me to do that once per episode. We'll find ways to work it in. But, yeah, couldn't be more of a massive gain for Michigan. And he's a guy that could play right away, right? Like, if Justice Haynes comes back for a senior year, that might make the room a little more crowded. They'll figure it out. You just hope it isn't. They don't not a figure it out in 2020 type of scenario. But I mean, this guy can do a little bit of everything. He's too talented to keep off the field. Huge win for Michigan. But they also had a huge loss yesterday. Unfortunately, another 5-star. But this time, someone who was signed, feared loss for the season. Let's get into Andrew Babalola's injury and what that means here in just a moment. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football is not far behind. Whether you got your name on big name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, we've been talking about those. PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the game. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on a 2 to 6 player stat projection. And then if you get your picks right, you can make up to 2,000 times your money. I've used PrizePicks, for a few seasons now, and I love how simple it is. I can get a lineup in before my coffee finishes brewing. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still see your money doubled. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. But as a lot of you can, if you're watching, you can see it. You can't if you listen. You see, I've just been shedding weight. This time last year, I weighed 40 pounds more than I currently do. One of the things is I'm doing a lot of running. That's new. I'd already dropped a lot of the weight, but it's starting to shape up a little bit more. And the great thing is when you're running, I've got DripDrop to help me get hydrated and back into the game because you don't want to be dehydrated. Listen, here's the thing. DripDrop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering the 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading sports drink. My go-to flavor is the cherry limeade, but they've got a strawberry lemonade. They've got citrus, orange. I just like all those are the ones that I go to. I just go to all the citrus ones. And I've tried a lot of electrolyte powders, but nothing tastes as good or works as fast. That's absolutely true. So right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners $20 off of your first order. Just head to DripDrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, this is actually take 2 because we had the same issues that we've had with audio. It's working fine now. We got halfway through the show. This is better though. This is better. Usually it doesn't go that way. Usually I'm like, I said a whole bunch of stuff for nothing. I did have some more fun rivalry digs that we'll never hear. We'll never make the light of day. But I included the rivalry whining in the in segment 1. Just wasn't as powerful. Everything else was better. All right. Oops, we're gonna mess up my microphone in the middle of the show. That's great. Andrew Babalola, feared loss for the season. That news comes to us courtesy of Matt Zenitz at CBS Sports. That is a massive blow. Could be worse, but like now the depth is thinner, unfortunately. Wasn't expected to start. That was like we've talked about. Evan Link kind of looks like he was gonna run away with it there. But if you watched or listened to In the Pocket with Jack Tuttle, I'm keeping the name because so many of you are texting me In the Huddle with Jack Huddle, which would have been the right, like, yeah, I didn't think of it. It was too on the nose. We're doing the Arrested Development Judge Reinhold thing where he starts trying to change the name instead of just, let's go with Jay Reinhold's Courtroom. That's where we're at. And you know what? I'm just going to be obstinate. We're just going to keep it. But like you heard him talk about Andrew Babalola, I believe last week. I think that was on air. I don't think that was in the pre-show or post-show. But nonetheless, he was going to be a part of this team. He was going to at the very least have a Trente Jones role. And it's not great to lose a guy of that talent that was able to potentially be someone who could, to be a true freshman who was going to come in and play a position. Usually you had to be on campus at least a full year to even be in the running to win. So it's really sad. I hope he gets better as soon as possible. I saw a lot of surprisingly classy messages from, I didn't see one single, I'm sure some of you had, but like, I didn't see one single negative response from any of the rivals. That also could be because I've blocked as many as I possibly can. Just want people. So, it's a huge blow. It's bad, but so we're obviously it doesn't change the calculus of what the team is supposed to look like at the season opener, but it does shorten the room for error for Evan Link, certainly. Or I should actually say it gives him a longer rope, but you don't want it that way. Now, Blake Frazier becomes that much more crucial. Someone who was injured all through last year, started to come on here late. And then if that doesn't happen, then you're moving maybe Brady Norton back over there, or if it's Connor Jones. You start getting into names that you didn't want to hear at left tackle. So you got to keep your left tackle upright. You've got to find a way to keep him healthy, because now the guy that you were thinking like at worst was going to be that second guy is not available to you. So that's not great. And it's disappointing, but I think that there's listen, he's a smart kid. We've heard a lot about how smart he is and how much he picks things up, getting the mental reps while he heals. And again, it's not confirmed. They haven't gotten to a point where this has been confirmed. Michigan, like, we'll learn probably Monday. They're not going to put out like a statement or anything. We'll probably learn on Monday. Sherrone Moore's first tip in season press conference Monday. When we're back on the regular schedule, that's probably when we're going to learn. But it's a shame because he had all the potential, like with everything that's been spoken about. Like, wow, he's the real deal. But you also didn't want to have to rely on a freshman. It's generally, regardless of the talent, generally better to have them back. If I'm trying to I'm playing Silver Linings playbook here. You obviously don't want to have freshman linemen. You generally don't. So at least, if nothing else, like he can go through the mental paces. He can learn a lot of different things, but like physically not being able to be out there for practice is a huge blow. If nothing else, getting the game reps is a huge blow. There's really no way around it. No matter how much I try to Silver Linings playbook this thing, it's a huge blow. So it's unfortunate. It will be interesting to see like who kind of steps up in his place. Can a Ty Haywood, who came as a late enrollee by midseason, can he be maybe that Trente Jones role? Can it be someone else? Can it be Blake Frazier? Some of these other guys that we've been hearing about that we haven't really gotten to see. So that'll be interesting, but there's nothing you can say otherwise that to make it less of a huge blow. It just is a big one. So that's unfortunate. All right. Don't have a lot more to say on that. Let's get to the more of the good. Kind of covered some of it, but I want to talk about Sherrone Moore and what he's doing in terms of building out a class for the second straight year. I think it's really impressive. So I want to get to that, and let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, if you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? I know I didn't. So you moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. If you juggle 2 phones just to keep your business and personal calls separate, well, guess what? OpenPhone will solve that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, let's continue on here. I just had an inkling to pull up something just to take a look here. Let's see. This is good radio. Good podcasting. What I'm doing right now. Excellent. I just wanted to look and see. Michigan up, it's number 10 in team rankings, with an average of 91.43. They have, listen, the average would be higher if they didn't take 2 specialists. Now, granted, I think 24/7 only counts one kicker, Micah Drescher. They don't have the other. So, like, if you take him out of the equation, they have one more commit than Ohio State, who's ranked ahead of them. If you take him out of the equation, they still, regardless, have one more 4-star than Ohio State has. And the same amount of 3-stars. That would include said kicker, Micah Drescher. But you're looking at this 2-13-7, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. Ohio State, 2-12-7. LSU, 2-13-3. Oregon, that's kind of out of reach, 5 5-stars. Texas, 3-12-6. Alabama out of reach with 5 5-stars. Texas A&M is 4th with 1-21-5. Much higher because of more commits. Notre Dame, much higher, more commits, but 3-17-7. USC, 1-21-10 with 32 total commits. And Georgia has 31 total commits, 2, 22, and 7. Michigan is right there. And yet Sherrone Moore does not get the same accolades as some of his compatriots. You hear all about, like, oh man, Lincoln can recruit, Marcus Freeman can recruit, Kirby can recruit. You know, I mean, Mike Elko's not necessarily getting talked about at Texas A&M that much. Kalen DeBoer can recruit. Steve Sark can recruit. Dan Lanning can recruit. Sherrone Moore is listed as the 15th best coach in the Big Ten by the parent company of 24. It does not get that same type of thing. That, like, because what? Think back to, I know we've covered this, but it's worth repeating. It bears repeating. Marcus Freeman became a household name before he coached a regular season game. Coached and lost in a bowl game, but then recruited his tail off, had a lot of like self-publicity videos. And before you knew it, Chris Fowler was opining during the opening sequence of the first college football night game that ESPN was hosting, or ABC, whatever, against Ohio State. And he says, these two damn fine football coaches. Yeah, we know about Ryan Day, but like, how did we know that about Marcus Freeman? We didn't. He was just a voracious recruiter. Sherrone Moore has shown these equally, if not more, voracious. Got Bryce Underwood to flip from LSU last year. Finished with what, the number 5 class. Trending towards that now. Now, I don't know if they'll quite be there because I don't know how many guys are left that they're going to be taken. I'm sure, you know, you're still looking at DQ Forkpaw. You know, who else is going to end up joining the class? There will be more. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defections. It kind of feels like all these guys are pretty solid now. But generally, like, you know, they'll add a couple guys. There'll be some players that we're not talking about or thinking about that'll end up in this class. But to get Savion Hiter and Carter Meadows, it's massive in this class. Like, Michigan has to at least be that's a school that's going to get 2 5-stars every cycle. Just, it has to be. That's just what they have to do. They did it last cycle. 3 if you count, depending on the service, Nate Marshall or Ty Haywood, whatever, right? Like 5 stars on some services, not on others. But having 2 consensus 5 stars, that's big. And that's what they've got right. So he's building something, kind of like we said. You can see offensively where they're working. Defensively, you already know they're good. They're still recruiting to defense as good as anyone else. You look at who they've brought in so far, it's an incredible list. So it's going very well. Yet he does not get the type of credit that I think he should. Not really sure why. You know, like, yeah, I'm recruiting really well. I beat Ohio State without a quarterback. I beat Alabama without a quarterback and without all those star players that played against Ohio State, Sherrone Moore can say. And yet, what kind of thanks does he get for it? Nothing. Now, granted, I think that's how he would prefer it. But to continue to add to this, to win recruiting battles like he did today, like I said before, Savion Hiter's a guy that could have gone anywhere in the country. But he's choosing Michigan. I think there's a little bit of some cognitive dissonance when it comes to how Sherrone Moore is perceived from a national perspective, because it does not stand to reason that he is not being thought of, at least like okay, Marcus Freeman made the national championship game this last year. That's finally vindication for those who were singing his praises all along. But he also lost to NIU in that same year, which shouldn't happen. He'd also underachieved every year up until this past year. Now, did Sherrone Moore underachieve? I don't know that I would say he underachieved. I'd say that he kind of got dealt not the greatest hand. Coming off of a national championship, too little time to assemble a staff, get the personnel, didn't have the quarterback. You can sit there and say, well, he should have gone to the portal and got another one. Tell me what person was available in the late portal that could have won and gotten. They weren't there. There were problems, but they were not fixed, but they found a way to make it all work in the end. To me, that signals a lot more than a guy that inherits a team that's already good and then just continues. I understand that, like, yeah, that's kind of what you would have thought with Michigan, but there's a 3-year run. All those guys that helped really make it happen left. The head coach that helped make it happen left with a little bit of a bare cupboard compared to everything. There was still a lot of belief that, I remember talking to someone and they said, early in the season, they said, I think that we just have enough guys that are going to be able to will this team to a college football playoff. Win the games you're supposed to in that season, the winnable games, beat Washington and Illinois. I mean, you might have been talking about that. Right? Like, yeah, they would have been 9-3 if everything else held. Or, Indiana, you can include that in that list. They were pretty close to being able to do exactly that. So I think that Sherrone deserves some flowers that he isn't getting. Again, I don't think he cares about it. I think he cares more about the players than he does himself. But that's what I'm here for, to give him some flowers. So there you go, Sherrone. All right, tomorrow is, and I was losing track of my days here. Tomorrow is In the Pocket with Jack Huddle. Yes, I said I'm being obstinate. I'm going counter with it. Jay Reinhold's courtroom in the pocket with Jack Tuttle. Listen, if y'all weren't on board, like everyone was saying, with the Jake Button Isaiah Hole podcast, X's and O's. What we were calling it. They were calling it butthole, and as they should have. But then I acknowledged it and people got mad. People got mad when I did it. So we're just not going to do that. So anyway, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon. Peace.